Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Seaton, the Business Development Manager for Avero Advisors. And today we have a very, very special guest, my new friend from ELGL, Miss Samantha Harkins. Hey, Samantha, how are you?
Hello, Megan and Avy. How are y'all doing?
Good, good. Oh, yeah. And I failed to mention, we do have our founder and CEO on the call today, AV. So
Hi.
Samantha, let's get started. Tell us about your background. How did you get started in local government? Tell us your story.
I got started in local government totally on accident. I went to law school and never wanted to be an attorney. Finished law school, went to visit my sister in Norfolk, Virginia. She's a teacher and has lived there for 20 some years. And I was visiting her and I had a copy of the newspaper, the actual newspaper that people don't buy as much anymore. And I was looking at classified ads and there was an ad for the executive assistant to the mayor. I was like, that seems cool. I can totally do that job.
Absolutely.
So I apply for it and I get the job. And I don't know anything about local government. And I'll never forget my first meeting was at like an economic development committee meeting with his staff and the director and everything. And they're talking about these developers and I'm writing all the names down. I'm like, I have no idea what anyone's talking about. It was crazy. Fell in love with local government, moved to Michigan and worked in the Michigan House on local government policy. Spent 8.5 years at the Michigan Municipal League lobbying. I led their lobby team and then ran their foundation for a couple of years. Then I was deputy mayor in the city of Lansing, which is where I live, Lansing, Michigan, for 3.5 years, and started consulting during COVID. It was crazy times. My son, I have a little guy, just turned 8, and I was like, life is crazy. I want more flexibility. I want to drop him off, pick him up from school. And so I started consulting, and all of my clients are local government based clients like Engaging Local Government Leaders, or ELGL, Michigan Municipal Services Authority, which incents local government collaboration. I do a lot of work with the city of Flint, who I love and is near and dear to my heart. And so I still work with local government every single day. I just do it from home and on different projects, and it's wonderful.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about ELGL and the conference and some of the local government leaders you are seeing who are up and coming. I know we attended this year and it was shocking to me how young some of these local government leaders are.
So young. I'm like the mom. I consider myself the mom of the group because I feel like I'm so much older. Engaging Local Government Leaders has been around for about a decade. We are an organization intended to really promote and prop up, start really younger local government leaders and then continue to support them throughout their career. And if you know some of the other local government associations, which are all wonderful, there is often a feeling of like you have to reach a certain level to be active, or you have to be, certain position. And ELGL, everyone is welcome to be engaged, to be on planning committees, to do all the things. And we had a planning committee member this year who's in her first year in local government in Texas, and she was just a rock star, totally on it at all of our events. And I love that because it was like, she's probably 22, 23, like you don't have to be deputy mayor to be really active in the organization. And
Right.
ELGL is also, to my knowledge, the only organization that represents all local government leaders, right? You don't have to be a city manager, you don't have to be an elected official. We have really active municipal librarians, utility folks, budget analysts, all walks of local government life are welcome and embraced in the organization. I love that because you learn so much about how local government operates, not just from the one job that everybody does, but across the board, because y'all know this and you support local government as well. There are a lot of critical jobs that make it work. And so it's really fun to get to learn more about them and celebrate them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was very eye-opening for Avero on how we could better engage with, that generation and how to go about, speaking with them and talking to them about innovation, because they all have wonderful ideas. Wonderful ideas. So in speaking about innovation and modernization, obviously Avero, we help local cities and counties carve a path to modernization, right? So what are your feelings towards that? Why do you think that that's important, and why should people start thinking about that in local government?
Well, it's so important. And I love that Avero's in that space because I think it's something local government is really challenged to do on their own. And the reason for that is not because we aren't filled with absolutely brilliant, wonderful, forward-thinking people, but it's because the workload and the amount of things you have to deal with in local government is colossal.
Yeah.
COVID's a great example of just running we ran everything, but the amount of things you have to respond to, and local government doesn't get to stop, right? There's a global pandemic. People still want their trash picked up, your toilet still has to flush, someone has to show up when you call 911. So all of those services still have to happen. And often being innovative then gets put on the back shelf. Another thing that really affects it, Megan and I were talking about the weather, and I know there's a big storm system moving through the country right now. Weather affects governing so much. And so you may be like working on this really great project, and then a giant snowstorm hits or a polar vortex or something crazy, and and it can completely derail innovation. So having partners like Avero who can help local governments focus and build that capacity for innovation is really critical, because the rest of the world is innovating and they're doing it because they have to do it. Like business world has to do it to be competitive. And while government's a different animal, we're not on paper competing with other folks. We are still competing for talent, and we are competing with other communities, right? You want people to stay in your community or in your region. And so having innovative processes really helps attract talent, attract workforce, business. And so it's important to do that. And it's important to have partners to help move that forward so it doesn't get put on the shelf.
Right. Yeah, and it's also workforce is a big challenge these days, right? Everybody's struggling to find people, keep people. It's probably harder for our clients and yours because of how long it takes somebody, a city or a county, to hire people. So automation and modernization of their technology can, I'm not saying replace people, but at least do the mundane tasks like answering FAQs and finding out where I need to show up to pay my ticket. Those kind of things that people are occupying today can be automated and made a lot more public facing than having to call City Hall to see where I'm supposed to go today.
That's such a great point. And I know, when city halls are trying to, we are struggling to find people. And as local government gets more complex and has to respond to so many different things, it's way easier if someone can go on the website and now I can look or pay a ticket online or do something online. And those things are automated. And then we can save our workforce to really focus on more innovative things and other types of projects. And so I think that's a really great point, that everyone's struggling, and local government is so sexy. It doesn't, maybe people don't think it is. Maybe that's why we struggle to get people, but it's so much fun. And I think it's super sexy. And so we got to make sure people know that.
Well, yeah. I mean, how do you explain it? You've seen Parks and Rec. Those guys have fun, but our clients actually get stuff done, right?
It's so much fun.
It's the same, but we get it done.
Exactly.
So tell us about 100th Place and what you're doing with this new adventure of yours.
Yeah, so 100 Place as my consulting company. You can see I have a little street sign up there.
I love that.
About me. I grew up in a town of 100, West Virginia, which has, when I was there, about 400 people, now like 250 people. So super tiny town, named for my hometown. And really, my goal with all of my clients is to try to find ways to help local governments build capacity and focus on innovation. I don't do it the same way that y'all do and some other, sort of more tech savvy partners do, but really with advice and with helping to connect them with partners and to help connect them with other resources. I do have one client I work on and do some lobbying here in Michigan. We have a full-time legislature. I have a lobbyist background. That's sort of like, feels like going home sometimes, getting to hang out with the legislature and the governor's office. So that I do some of that work. But then I also have, I mentioned earlier, the Michigan Municipal Services Authority. It's a statewide authority in Michigan. And it was created about a decade ago in order to try to come up with ways to incent local government collaboration. We have, oh goodness, over 1,800 units of local government in Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Between cities, villages, counties, and townships, like an insane amount of government. And here in Lansing, we are surrounded by 4 urban townships and a city. And the city of Lansing itself, 120,000 people, sits in 3 counties. So that becomes very difficult to collaborate. Everyone has their own turf. We're a very strong union state. We have strong union employee bases in all of those communities. And so being collaborative is really tough, but as budgets get tighter and we have 5 fire departments within a less than 10-mile radius, 5 full-time fire departments. And I've gotten in trouble many times for saying they should consider whether we need that many, but what I would say is those are questions that should be asked, right? About whether it's fire or trash or any other service, is how do we look at local government and provide services in a more effective way? Because to be totally honest with you, people really don't care who picks up their trash, right? Like they want it picked up. And we in local government are like, we have to do it. The city, do we? No. So I think thinking about ways to be collaborative and innovative is so important. And so that's with all of my clients, that's always my focus is capacity, collaboration, and innovation.
That's incredible because it again touches on the workforce situation, and also again retiring employees at almost every client that we have. They've been there for 20 years now. They're moving on, and there's this huge gap in tribal knowledge that at many times, and we live in a place where it's the same thing. We have 3 different cities in the same county. They have their own governments, own fire departments, own schools, and the talk of regionalization is very sexy and attractive, but getting it done is really difficult. So have you had any success getting such communities to talk to each other and just collaborate on things?
Oh, I wish. No, I would say yes and no. I think that everyone's open to the conversation. I've been part of fire department consolidation talks in the Lansing region for more than a decade. In almost every job I've had in Lansing, that comes up. It's just really hard. We shared a fire chief, City of Lansing shared a fire chief with East Lansing. Didn't work. It was for a number of years. It wasn't a great situation. And so just thinking about, it's really hard to get folks to move, and local government can be so siloed, like a lot of professions. And it's also, there's a someone called it the letter jacket argument, right? Like, people want their Lansing police to show up, or they want their, specifically. And I think that's true to a certain extent, but people also want to not pay more for services. They want services to be effective. And at the end of the day, if someone shows up when they call 911 in a response time that is really fast and reasonable, that's what people really care about at the root of it. And so getting past, I think local government, we get in our own way. And I think that's really the case with a lot of regionalization efforts across the country, is that local government gets in the way, not the residents, it's we get in our own way because it's too hard to think about how to get over that hurdle.
Well, and then there's the high school football rivalries. What do you mean collaborate? Yeah.
We tried to, a few years ago, we were working on, East Lansing's right down the road, 5 miles. We have a lockup in the city of Lansing. They have a lockup, just 72 hours, right? So, if you're on campus at Michigan State and you have a few too many beers, you end up in the lockup at Michigan State. If you're downtown here at a baseball game, same. And they're just a few miles down the road. We could not get to consolidate and lockup. And those conversations got tense, and it turned into one of the conversations was, our prisoners are different than your prisoners. And I was like, oh, come on now. And so those kinds of things are really real. And so how we get past those is just a real challenge. So that's my hope, is that you keep pushing it, people will get there eventually, but hasn't not a ton of success yet.
Well, in technology, what we're seeing is it's becoming a gateway to regionalization and collaboration, because it's all in the back end. You have to convince three people, not 25, to make something happen. So just simple things like collaborating on the fiber optic footprint, or having same regional standards for cybersecurity and systems used. Those kind of things we're seeing happen. And I think what that's going to lead to is some operational sort of consolidation in the future.
I agree. And I love that, because those are the steps that are needed. And when people see the success in those steps, it helps them think more broadly about other things that can be done and other ways to be collaborative.
Sorry, Megan, I hijacked your interview.
No, it was great. It was great. You guys were having a great conversation. But I don't have any more questions unless you do, AV.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated by her career. I didn't know you were a recovering lawyer.
I'm not even recovering, didn't ever start.
Okay.
What's funny about that is I was in undergrad and I have Crohn's disease and I needed to stay on my parents' insurance. So I'm like, well, I got to go to grad school, right? And I was doing an internship in the West Virginia legislature, and the legislature where I was working with said, go to law school. I'd applied to both law school and grad school. He said, go to law school. It's an extra year. You'll have way more options. And I'm like, all right. So I went to law school knowing from day one I never wanted to be an attorney. And I think that I handled law school very differently than my classmates. Like, I remember the first night of class, my first night of law school, there was a concert I wanted to go to. So I did all my readings on Sunday for 2 days so I could go to the concert. And it's the first day of school. And my classmates were like, you're not reading, you're going to a concert? I'm like, yeah. And so I still lived my life, but fit law school into it. And I think that I just had a really interesting experience. And my grades were I was middle of my class, which was the worst I'd ever done, right? I'd always been an overachiever, but I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer. And it's been really wonderful. But then I have enough knowledge of the law to be scary to people. My city attorney in Lansing used to be like, man, I forget you're an attorney.
Yeah.
Like when I throw something out every now and then. So it keeps me a little dangerous.
That's awesome. So what are you seeing in the field? I mean, I know you're involved a lot with the ELGL and municipal organizations in Michigan. When we were at ELGL conference, the one thing that stuck was that these members are going to be our clients in the next 5 years, right? You have the old guard retiring, the city managers and the mayors and the executive directors I've been in this field for almost 20 years. Things were a lot different when we started. And I think in the next 5 years, our clientele is going to be, they're going to look different, act different, want different things. On the flip side, when we try to attract employees now, it's the question isn't how much are we going to pay a certain position, it's what is it that they're looking for, and the younger generations looking for impact and value more than anything else.
Yep.
So what would be your advice to us that we've been successful selling and convincing a certain demographic that they need our services? What should we be looking forward to with the CLGL crowd?
Yeah, I think what we should be looking forward to are people who are strong, who know what they want, and they know they want impact, they want diversity, they want flexibility. And I think that's going to be a really different change for local government, which has always been for a long time, largely white male. I know I still, even as deputy mayor, we had a really diverse cabinet, which was less than half for white men. And the number of times I was in a room, it's still the only non-white male. And so I think that will certainly change. And I think that changes the dynamic, and nothing against the white males who I love and have worked for and with and still do. But, I think that we have we have more women, we have more people of color, we have different ethnicities. And I think that's awesome and really important. And it changes how people see their work and what matters to them. And so I think being in tune with yourself as an organization and being honest with what you do and the value that you can provide. Because I know at ELGL, one of the things that I really found wonderful about at the conference was these honest conversations about things like vulnerability and failure and things we haven't really admitted really before. And so those are what I think the partners that really thrive will be ones that are in tune with that, who can say, this is what we're really good at, and this is where we struggle. And so when you work with us, this is something we're still working on. And we tried this and it didn't work. We're going to try something different, and we're going to partner together. Having those honest interactions and conversations will be really important, not just it used to be who's the best and who can do this the best and who can do this the cheapest and the fastest. Those things are all important, but it's also about being honest about yourselves and your organization and your value. And I think that's what's going to be attractive, is that honesty and that vulnerability.
Just people to people relationships and like you said, honest relationships more than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great advice, because we do that well. We just, in our industry, we go up against the big boys, right? Been around for 40 years, big brands, 4,000 employees. And sometimes if it's a coin toss, most prospects are going to go with the big guys because that's comfort. So we need to find a way. And this is me throwing it out there. We're still trying to find our voice. We do well beating those guys many times, but many times more than that, they beat us. And I think we need to get ourselves poised for the next generation of leaders on our client side that care more about the people and honesty than the brands. That's great to hear.
Yeah, and I think that as the workforce, right now, a third of the workforce in local government across the country is eligible for retirement, and that's going to create a huge shift. And as that happens, I do think that the big boys, as we'll call them, I think they're going to struggle. I think I think there's a need and a desire for a more authentic connection and a more authentic partnership. That is, I have someone I know that when I call, Megan is going to answer the phone every time. She knows me. This isn't not just a number to a barrel. I am a person that they know. I'm important to their process and their team as well. I'm an extension of their team. I think that is going to continue to be that would become more important.
What great advice.
Yes.
Anything else?
Really good to hear. Really good to hear from my standpoint.
Well, and we strive to be that. We
do.
Really, one of our core values, our top core value, is caring deeply about our clients. not just the project, but the people. And we strive to bring that across. So I think we need to do more of that and become more authentic. So
Absolutely.
Well, I have no doubt. You're so, I mean, I met Megan the moment I met her. And I was like, this is someone that like, I want to be friends with. I want to like watch college football with, like,
Yes.
Like, you know.
And we can do that whenever you're
totally,
ready. I'll come.
Totally, because you went to Auburn, right?
I did. War Eagle,
and I went to West Virginia, and so we can like totally enjoy each other's team without conflict.
Without yes, without any conflict.
You'll have to come to Michigan State game where my husband.
Yes,
it's very fun.
I would love to do that. Love to do that.
Open invitation.
Thank you.
Yeah, take her to a Michigan Ohio game next year.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So I have never been to that game. I've been to Michigan State, never Michigan, Ohio State. So
yeah.
Well,
new experience.
You might have to come on down to old Rocky Top. We're coming back. We're coming back. We had a great football season this year, so I might have to put in a plug for good old Rocky Top. You might have to come here and visit and wear.
We can do that. And you know, I love Knoxville. So
yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today, Samantha. We really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing your insight and some of your experiences with us.
Thank you both for having me.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Absolutely.
Happy holidays.